What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Battle for LA podcast, part of the ClutchPoints and Blue Wire Networks. As usual, Tomer Azarly, your Clippers beat writer for ClutchPoints here. Ryan Ward, as you can see, also here as well, Lakers beat writer. Back in LA, right?
Yes, sir.
Back in LA. Well, we got a special guest for you guys this week. This guy's been super busy, so he somehow found the time uh, to join us. Soon to be Grammy nominated rapper, but also does some news breaking on the side. Chris Haynes, thank you for joining the pod. We appreciate it, man.
No, it's all good, man. Y'all good? Family straight?
We're
So
good. We're good,
far,
man.
yeah.
No
That's what's
complaints.
up.
It's good. I think we should just jump right into it. The biggest news of the week we have is something that you broke as well. The Kyrie Irving leading the inspiring, galvanizing conference call with players around the league. What were you told about that call? How did that call go?
Well, obviously, it was a call organized by Kyrie Irving. It was a call that lasted about an hour and 40 minutes. At one point, it had up to about 84 players on that call.
Mhm.
But basically, it was a call to allow for the players who felt like their voice wasn't getting heard throughout this process. It was a platform for them to speak their mind. You had Mo Bamba from the Orlando Magic, Donovan Mitchell, the Utah Jazz, young guys who didn't voice their thoughts on what should happen. And they had a lot of
Mhm.
times, well, I'll go back to this. So when the Players Association approved the league's 22 team format, that's when a lot of players felt like, damn, like, okay, I didn't get a vote. Like, where was I? I didn't hear anything about this.
Mhm.
I should be able to have a say so on if the league restarts or not in Orlando.
Mhm.
So this was the platform for given to these guys to voice their opinion, and Kyrie Irving let it be known on that call that his preference was not to be in Orlando. He felt like there was a lot of things that need to be done with the social climate the way that it is right now, and racial injustice and the aftermath of the George Floyd tragedy. He felt like there was more important things to be done than just playing basketball. Dwight Howard agreed with him on that call. Avery Bradley had similar sentiments. I'm trying to think who else is on that call who felt that way. Carmelo Anthony felt that way as well. And
Mhm.
so, they're the minority. I just want to say that. But it was basically a call to give everybody who wanted to speak or who felt like they haven't been able to speak in the past to give them a platform to do so.
Now, the way this came off to me was that a lot of players were sort of scared to speak out against the establishment because they weren't high name superstars, like you named Mo Bamba, some of the other guys. Is that sort of how it was? Like they were afraid that no one echoed their sentiments and they just felt, okay, maybe I'll just keep quiet and just run with it?
Yeah, I mean that's natural. That's natural when you're a young cat. When you have,
Hmm.
let's just talk about the superstar call that I reported on a couple weeks back,
Right.
whenever that was. Um, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook. I'm leaving out some names, but those guys had a conference call, and at the end of the call, they both agreed that it was in the league's best interest to get out there and play if the league could establish safety precautionary measures.
Right.
And so when you got players of that magnitude, of that status, basically saying, we need to play. The goal is to play. It's going to be hard for youngsters such as Mo Bamba and others to go against that if they feel a different way. And that call was it was very productive. It was very productive with players speaking their mind. Al Farouk Aminu, he is somebody who was really quiet, but he was really voicing his concern
Really?
with going, and he was also voicing his concern with not going. And
Hmm.
but he was speaking out, and that was the platform given to him.
Do you think this is going to happen no matter what at this
Yeah, there,
point?
yeah. There's not enough opposition for this season not to resume. I understand the big headlines that's going to be made is going to come from players who are against going, but there's
Hmm.
not enough of them um,
Mhm.
to turn the course back. And with that being said, even Kyrie Irving, after listening to his peers um, talk about um, the pros and cons of going, um, he said at the end, after listening to everybody, he said at the end of the call that, look, I'm going to do what my peer group say is the right thing to do. So if everybody votes that we need to be in Orlando, then he said he would be in Orlando. So it was a good, just a good, informative, communicative call. It hasn't been that many players that get together in a call like that in a long time, and they stressed that numerous times during that conference call.
So, is there anything the NBA could do? Because they're considered one of the more progressive leagues in the entire world. Is there anything they could do with their players, I guess, to combine their platforms, lift it up, and bring more exposure to this issue, the social issues that we have right now, especially with the black inequality right now?
Yeah, that's the next step. And of course, the league is going to work something out with the Players Association and figure out the best avenues of doing such. There's going to be a big platform when the league returns. Everybody is thirsty for sports right now. They're thirsty for an outlet, thirsty for some form of entertainment. And so they're going to have a big platform. The eyeballs are going to be on them, and they're going to be able to do whatever it is that they agree to do. But, go back to the point made by, players who are against going right now, they feel like with a league that's predominantly African-American, why are we going over there in an isolated situation, basically, stuck there for three months. If your team is that great, their team is that good, that can advance. Just feel like it's bad optics, especially what the black community is going through right now.
Mm-hmm. I've also heard that some of the players have issues with the contenders, for example, will be going probably 40, 50 days without seeing family, and the NBA is trying to keep that bubble strict, correct?
Yeah, I can't think of the number of family members on top of my head that's going to be allowed, but they'll be able to have their close family members with them, the ones who they stay with. I'm not sure the number as of right now, but they'll be able to have close family with them.
Was it two? Was it two?
No, it can't be two.
And it seems a bit low, but
yeah, that's too low. It can't be two.
Was that like the initial thing that people were saying? Two?
I don't remember hearing two. But that's too low. They'll be able to have their clothes. I want to say they'll be able to have their household with them. And I would think, there's some players who have a household of 5 or 6 kids. You mean to tell me that only 2 kids are going to be able to come? So that's not reasonable. That's not going to happen at all. But I want to say I believe family members could come aboard around August 30th. I could be mistaken, but I do believe that's around the date.
I guess there will be fewer teams by then. Playoffs will be second round by then. So
correct.
Okay, makes sense. Another thing I wanted to ask about was, because they have these player reps, and there seemed to be a miscommunication here between, getting everyone's approval at least. I want to ask about the long-term ramifications. Like, are players fully informed, or at least well-informed, about the potential long-term ramifications of not playing this season?
Well, definitely there's a significant amount of players who aren't informed. And, look, there was a point during that call where Chris Paul jumped in because everybody was making a big deal about the amount of players that were in this call. Like I said, it was upwards of around 84 players. And at one point, Chris Paul had to step in and say, hey, look, this is good. We want this to continue to grow. We want to have this type of player engagement involvement moving forward in all the other meetings. Mm-hmm. But you have to remember, this is not even a fourth of the league, so right. You have to keep it in perspective. And so with that being said, I understand why, there's some players that were complaining that, I didn't have a right to vote. Like, every player should have a right to vote. And I get that. I understand that. But every player is not actively engaged in making sure that they're up to date on the latest what's going on, whether that be CBA ramifications, right. DRI ramifications. They're just not up to date. And so do you hand over the league, when you talk about the voting power and the voting process, to 450 guys, when I'm not going to throw a number out there, when it's a large amount of them don't even know what's going on. So right. I get why they wouldn't open it up to every single player, but and that's what, again, that it goes to the reason Kyrie Irving felt like he had to put this conference call together. It wasn't a call whether we're going to take a vote or what we're going to do. It was just a call for people to, air their concerns, for young folks to talk about, what's concerning them, because they usually don't get a voice and usually don't get a shot to talk. And Donovan Mitchell, he spoke about his extension that he's up for this offseason.
Right.
He felt like, he leaned on the side of not going, because he felt like going and playing Orlando, what if he hurts himself? Then he takes himself out of position to receive a max contract. And he made it clear that he hasn't played 5-on-5 since the regular season ended. So, you have all these different positions, all these different concerns, whether they're team-wide concerns, league-wide concerns, or even individual concerns. But the point is, they were given a platform to talk about it, and everybody just, was able to just see where each person was coming from.
Do you think that the news that came out this morning is going to have a big effect on the NBA with Ezekiel Elliott getting the COVID?
No, I don't think so, because, Adam Silver, on the call he had with the players, I want to say it's probably a month ago now, he said he expects there to be positive COVID testing. He expects for players to test positive. And with that being said, he said that players should expect it and be okay with moving forward and continuing the season along. And they'll take that player away who tests positive, quarantine him, do whatever they have to do before he's inserted back into the bubble. And so, that was a warning Adam Silver gave over a month ago. So, we will expect players to test positive. But I think the league standpoint, I think they're looking at it like, well, we can handle that. We expect that, but what if that player who tests positive
is LeBron James?
LeBron James.
There's a big name superstar, right?
Yeah, superstar player. You have to quarantine for a certain amount. That him being out quarantined during that time, that can kill his team chances. What if it's the playoffs? So, that's the plan. That's the league. The problem is, Carmelo Anthony said this as well in the conference call. Like, they don't have enough information to go on as far as what's going to be the protocol, what's going to be the limitations while they're down in Orlando. So that's why a lot of players not even say a lot of players, but that's why some players haven't been able to commit themselves fully to going over there in Orlando, because they just don't have enough information on what this is going to look like over there.
So they think they're going to go there and kind of get trapped for a couple of months, potentially, with just totally limited things that they can do. And
well, I'll say this. I mean, as of right now, but, they'll have a clearer picture of what they're facing, once the league gets back to them on, how things are going to look over there. But just as of right now, that's why, a player like Carmelo Anthony is saying, look, I haven't been able to commit yet because I don't know what it looks like. So the league has to get back to the players with a firm protocol list on what this thing is actually going to look like on a day-to-day basis. Once the players get that in their hand, if they feel comfortable with it, they'll go. If not, they won't. And another thing, guys, look, league, this is not going to be a situation where players are forced to go. If you don't want to play, that's your personal opinion. And I personally respect either way, both ways. But, if you don't play, you don't get paid. And so as for the league standpoint and for the players, they made it clear. CJ McCollum made it clear. He said on the conference call that he voted no in a group chat to return to play. But he said the financial ramifications of not doing so as a league, for the players, it's going to be seriously a bad situation heading into the next CBA.
Yeah. And so, I was going to say, because a lot of players, it seems like, are just, you can't fault them for not wanting to go. And it also seems like the NBA it's just a fluid situation, like a day-by-day approach in terms of we're finding out new information about the bubble every day, it seems like, about, Disney crew members not having to be tested. I think that was like a week ago. And it just seems like there isn't a concrete plan yet. And I think some players are finding out about this on Twitter like we are. Everyone's just finding out at the same time.
Well, you have to understand the steps that were in play. I think when it was reported about the Well, first of all, when it was reported about the owners approving this 22-team format, and then the Players Association a couple of days ago agreeing to that 22-team format, that just meant that they agreed to that format. You know what I mean? There are other steps in play now. Now there's negotiations that need to be happen to reassure that the players do feel comfortable going over there. It's one thing to agree to the format, but that doesn't mean that they're agreeing to play right now under the conditions. So that's where we're at. And like I said, there's not enough opposition, in the player, within the player, within the group of players of 40, 150 players. There's not enough opposition to say this thing is not going to happen. It's going to happen. There's too much money at stake, and I'm making this clear. This is strictly for financial purposes. Period. Because if the CBA wasn't up, if there wasn't a clause where the owners could rip up this CBA and start a new one, I would think most players will say, you know what, we're going to scrap this. It's not worth it. It's not worth it from a safety standpoint, and just from the timing of what's going on in our society, in our communities as Black players and Black people, as individuals. There's no point in going over there right now. There's more serious things that needs to be addressed.
So, in your opinion, what's the biggest hurdle preventing the NBA from returning right now? I mean, you said it's likely to happen. What's the biggest issue or hurdle that we have to get over to make that happen?
The biggest hurdle is that, the league has to come up with their protocol, saying how everything is going to play out over there in Orlando. The players have to see it and review it, and they have to decide on if they're comfortable with that. If they're comfortable with, like you said, you guys talked about it, about we don't know if Disney workers will be able to go in and out. They don't know that. That's a big question that needs to be answered. Because if they do, from all reports, the cases are spiking in that area. Yeah. So that's a big concern. They need to know that. They need to know, are Disney workers going to be able to go in and out, or will they be quarantined and being in that campus bubble for that 3-month period? So things like that. That's it. So once the league comes back with their protocol and their mandate on what needs to happen, if the players feel comfortable with it, if they do, they'll approve it. But that's the big hurdle.
What are your thoughts on potentially being no fans in the stadiums for all of next season? You think that's going to happen? I mean, a lot can happen between now and then. But...
Yeah, no, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. And, Adam Silver raised that awareness in his conference call a month ago. The players, echoed that again in their last conference call here with Kyrie Irving. It's definitely a possibility. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know we don't know if this COVID virus is going to spread, if it's going to peter out. We don't know anything about it. And so, it's hard to say, but, there is, the league expects there to be a significant portion of the season next season that won't include fans. And that very well possibly could be all of next season.
What about, this is a kind of a question I think me and Tommy are both wondering about. What are they going to do with us, with media?
Yeah, so I was going to ask because I mean, you're in arenas. Ryan and I are both in arenas. Player access has sort of been a limited thing. Some teams try to limit how much media can get, and then one-on-ones are hard to get as it is. And now with I'm guessing locker room access is going to be gone. Obviously, even close contact is going to be probably forbidden. How do you think that media is going to work now?
Yeah, I don't know about how next season's media availability is going to work. But as far as this Orlando trip, there was a report out there about there being a 2-tier system,
right,
for media who wants to cover the resumption of the season. Where tier 1, they will actually be in the bubble, and tier 2 media, they will be outside the bubble in Orlando. And tier 2 media will only have access to the games. And that's it. Tier 1, I think, will have a little bit more access to the players, but still that's going to be limited compared to what we're used to, during the regular season when things were considered normal. So I don't know beyond Orlando. I really don't know what that's going to look like, because I don't know how severe this COVID is going to be 6 months down the road.
Well, I thought this format makes a lot of sense, right? Having reporters on a kind of a conference call with each player or whatever player they request. You know what I mean? Like maybe 5 players come up from each team after every game and talk, just like this.
The Pro Basketball Writers Association, they're negotiating with the league on figuring out the best protocol to facilitate the media. You know, there's a lot of tough, like a lot of tough situations that the PBWA has to consider, as well as the league. Like, you bring those 2 tiers out there, right? So it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive to have somebody in the bubble because they have to get tested daily, just like the players. And then the tier 2, right? They're still spending a significant amount of resources to cover this thing, even though they're not in the bubble, where it's more expensive, but they're outside the bubble. They've still made the trip to be out in Orlando. They're still going to be there covering games live. Now, the tricky part is going to be for a lot of media companies who can't even afford to get to Orlando. But, you know, say, for instance, say there's a publication that covers the Lakers. You know, well, Lakers are expected to go the distance. They're expected to play 3 months into that season. You know, what do you do for the publication that can't afford to go when they're still stuck at home? Does the NBA allow that publication to be on a Zoom calls with all the other media in tier 2? And then if you're a tier 2 publication, how do you feel about that? You know, do you feel like you know, you're paying a substantial price to be in tier 2? You know, you should be paying to get this access, and you should be, you know, like, what's the difference? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I need, you know, tier 2 may be like, you know, look, I paid to be here. I shouldn't be getting the same access as somebody who
At home
didn't pay. You know, it's a tough, tricky situation. And
well, Nish is totally going to pay for both me and Tomer to go there for 3 months.
and they
4
should.
months.
And they should.
Yeah.
And you should. I expect y'all to be there, right? Tier 1 in the bubble.
Hey man, I wish. It's gonna be tough though. I heard it's gonna be upwards of like 50,000 for a reporter, for a beat writer, or reporter.
Are you kidding me? Seriously?
Something like that for the entire trip.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it's Orlando. It's you're on campus. So, and Disney World is opening back up. So I mean, it's full steam ahead. Chris, I wanted to get your thoughts on because you have a powerful voice in the NBA community. When you see something like George Floyd happen, I mean, and we pretty much see it every day now. Like, I think every time I've gone on my Twitter timeline, there's some new video coming up, and I'm like, shit, like, what the hell, man? This is just it's an everyday thing. I mean, what goes through your mind? I mean, do you have kids?
Yeah, I got kids. I got 4 daughters.
Yes, 4 daughters. So yeah, what goes through your mind when you see that?
Shit. What goes through my mind is, you know, that potentially could have been me. You know, I was arrested. When was this? Like 2010, Bert? 2014. I was 2014. I'm in Portland, right? Like, it's like a day before free agency, and I had just moved into this new house, and I didn't know the area. I wasn't familiar with the area about how bad crime was or whatever in that area. But it's a day before the night before free agency, and so it's around 10 o'clock at night, and I'm on my phone just getting prepared to talking to sources, getting prepared. And so when I'm on my phone talking for an extended amount of time, I pace back and forth. So I decide, like, look, I'm not going to wake everybody up my pacing and talking, so I'm going to go outside. And so I go outside, and right across the street is a train track. It's what do they call that? What they call that? Yeah, the Max train. The Max train in Portland. And on the train track, you know, there's a gravel area. It's like a 6 feet of gravel area before you get to the actual tracks.
Right.
So I'm in that. So that the track is right across the street from my house. And so I go over that gravel area, and I'm just pacing back and forth on my phone. And so I'm doing that, and I see a cop. It's like 10 minutes to my conversation. I see a cop, like, on the opposite side of the street. It's a one-way. He's coming towards me, and then he stops and slow down and see what I'm, you know, I don't know, just like get a look at who's over there. And I see him speed up to the next intersection and bust a U. And so I'm talking to my colleague, who was Peter Sokach. He's my producer at the time for Comcast Sportsnet Northwest, which is now NBC Sports Northwest. I said, hey, Peter, this cop is coming over, so, you know, stay on the phone. Basically, a cop comes right in front of my house, pulls the flash the high beams on me from his car, steps out the car, asks me, what am I doing over here? I'm like, my house is right here. I'm on the phone talking. He's like, well, you're trespassing. I'm like, trespassing? Yeah, this is private property. I'm like, all right, well, my house is right here, so I'll go back over here. No, give me your ID. Give me your ID. I'm like, for what, officer? What you talking about my ID? Give me your ID. Give me your ID. And so I'm at, pull out my ID. Like 3 more cops come over. I'm like, officer, is this really serious? My house is right here. I'm just on the phone. Why are you getting agitated? Sit down on the curb. Sit on the curb. I'm like, sit down on the curb?
In front of your house.
In front of my house, man. And look, my wife and kids, they don't know what's going on. All they know is I went outside to talk. So they, all this is going on outside. They have no clue. So the dude, sits me down on the curb. And I'm like, man, y'all are tripping over me walking across the street from my house on the phone. And he was like, you know what? That's enough. We'll arrest you. I'm like, for what? For trespassing, on private property. I'm like, what? And so he grabs my hand and my phone, because I'm still on the phone with Peter. He's listening. My phone drops on the ground. And I yell to Peter, call my wife. Let her know. And so this is the part where things could have really got bad because I'm not the most flexible person. So the cop is putting my arms back to handcuff me, and I'm not that flexible. And so as he's handcuffing me, he's telling me, stop resisting, like pushing me like that, stop resisting. And I'm like, bro, do your job. Nobody's resisting, man. Do your job. That was his way of trying to agitate me to try to get me to do something else. And so he puts me in the car, put me in the back seat. And he gets in the front seat. And he asked me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm an NBA reporter. He's an NBA reporter, huh? And so he's in the front seat, right? And he pulls out his cell phone. He pulls out his cell phone and goes to Google, looks up who I am. Then he was like, huh. And then he turns up the music of the car on stereo. Turns it up high, blast it high, where I can't hear anything but the music. And he steps outside and gets on his phone. Whatever he said on his phone, I don't know. I can imagine he said, hey, whoever talking to a superior, hey, I picked up such and such. And
we fucked up.
Yeah, basically. But at this point, he couldn't do it. You couldn't turn back. Like you gotta take me in. And so my wife finally comes out. And she had what did you have in your hand, babe? Okay. So remember, we just moved in, and my wife had a drill, and she was drilling holes, to put pictures up and all that stuff. So when she got the call from Peter that hey, they're arresting Chris, he's outside, she runs out. She has the drill in her hand, and you guys know a drill late at night, you know what that can look like. So she runs outside. And luckily, she remembers, damn, I got this drill. And she throws the drill in the bush before she gets over there. So just like little things like that. Just imagine she comes over there with the drill in her hand just to see what her husband is up to. And so she goes over there asking what's going on. And officer said, we're taking him in. He trespassed. She's like, trespass? She's like, dude, you got to stop this. Let him out right now. They took me in. I didn't get out till about 3 a.m. They had my mug shot, like Portland has this Portland city database of like people who get booked on a daily basis. I can't remember the name of that website, but they had my mug shot up there like I was a real criminal. And I was stressing because I'm like 3 years into my career at that point. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but when a black person has a mug shot, people automatically assume you're guilty. People automatically assume you did something. Well, I'll say most people automatically assume that. So I feared for my career at that point, and I didn't do a damn thing, but was walking in front of my house. So long story short, took the officer to court. I won everything. The judge sided on me for, everything, said I had no right to be arrested and all that stuff. So I won, I was cleared of all doing blah, blah, blah. But the point was, it never should have gotten to that point. It could definitely have escalated because that cop did try to escalate things. And I wrote about that experience when I was in Cleveland, like maybe a year or two later. And I didn't put that cop's name in my story. And at some point, at some point I am, like, soon, because I thought about suing when it first happened. I thought about suing the police. I started about suing the city, Portland police, but I felt like if I sued, this is big news around there. Reporter sues police, and I just didn't want. Like, I was just concerned about my career because I was just starting. You know what I mean? Right. But like, I don't give a damn now. But to answer your question, I tell that story to answer your question. You said, what do I think about? I think about that could have been, that could have been me, easily been me. It probably was supposed to be me if I would have acted up in the way that they wanted me to.
Yeah, I knew about that story. I didn't know the details of that story. So thank you for sharing. It just feels like a day-to-day thing at this point, where now it feels like the best defense against this is this. It's a camera phone. Like, that's the best defense. That's the best way to expose it. And I mean, we're even seeing people officers on camera doing it. Like, they don't even care anymore. Like, they know it's going to be on social media and they don't care.
Yeah, and you know what? And it's not that it's been an uptick on racial profiling or an uptick in people of color savagely getting beaten, or in a lot of cases killed, murdered. It's just, we had that phone, just like you mentioned. The phone is revealing that this stuff goes on. For a long time, we've always complained. I still don't feel comfortable around cops, really. I really don't. Never have. And I certainly most didn't feel that good after my incident. And that wasn't the first incident. So it's tough, man. It's tough. I respect law enforcement. You have a job to do, and there's no doubt about it. When situations have come up, there's been times where my family have had to call 911. But, to say that there's a gap in the relationship between people of color and police officers, that's an understatement. They have to get better. There has to be better policing. There has to be, policemen have to know and get to know the community that they serve. And I would like that. I would hope that, a lot of the people that's in the community go into law enforcement, to serve your community. I'm not against the police force. I just think, man, it's the way that people of color get treated. And a lot of times they're getting treated that way by people who aren't used to being around black people. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I was at this, right. And no, it's no disrespect, like with the protests and marches that's going on. Like, I went to a march here in Fremont, California, and it's largely being ran by young black people, like 23 and younger, like, organizing these marches, and they're getting good numbers. But there's a lot of white support, like a lot. It was majority, white people, and it was great to see. I've never seen anything like that. And as we've been seeing it, this is happening across the country. But what I'm noticing is that, we always get taught the rules of how to engage police. When you get pulled over, have your hands up. What I mean? Let the police officers see your hands. Let them know you don't have any guns. You're not reaching for anything like that. And so there's just and the way that you talk. Yes, sir. You try to keep the conversation civilized. You do as less as possible to make sure that you're not seen as a threat. Even though to a lot of police officers, by the color of your skin, you're viewed as a threat. Right. But, you see, and it's funny, I'll see cops, you look at Cops, the TV show Cops, every now and then. And certain times, a white, when a white person is pulled over, they're cussing the police out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what the F you pulled me over for? This is stupid effort, blah, 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 whatever. And so I've always seen that. And I'm like, damn, like, if I did that, boy, that might be my last conversation. You know what I'm saying? on this earth. And, but I brought all that to say is that, we're marching out here, and a lot of the white people that's marching, they're saying, F the cops. We're walking right past them because, the cops are barricading areas off so we can walk. And so we're walking, and they're holding cops. F the cops. If you got a gun, you're a B. You know what I mean? Just all this, like, and I'm like, damn, like, hold on. this is a Black Lives Matter march, and I appreciate the support, but that type of rhetoric is not going to help us. But at the same time, like you said, that's the way that they've always been able to communicate with cops that way. They've always been able to say things like that. And you have to understand, the message can't be interrupted by rhetoric like that, because you don't want the narrative, like when somebody's writing a story. You know, somebody probably write the story of the Fremont March was filled with people cussing at the police, saying this. Well, that's not us, because you know, people of color, we don't do that. You know what I mean? We can't say that. You know what I'm saying? You know, lives are in jeopardy. You know, you start disrespecting the cops and saying things like that. And so, you know, I just hope that, you know, people understand, like, when we're coming together, you're coming together in the name of peace. But no doubt about it, I love the fact that all people of all walks of life are protesting for one common cause, and it's our cause. And that has my lifetime, I've never seen that.
Did you get a talk from your parents when you grew up about this, about, you know, how to treat cops, you know, with respect? Because you sort of, you're behind because they'll always judge you by the color of your skin.
All the time, man. Most Black people have grown up, you know, getting that talk. You know, men, women, boys, girls. You have to. It's a survival. It's a survival tactic. You're already going to get approached. You know, like what I'm. You know, like my situation. When I got arrested, I had a tank top on, and some basketball shorts, and I want to say some sandals, maybe just some running shoes or whatever. But, you know, they came up. This officer had from what I look like this so-called thug, maybe. Maybe I was out looking like I'm selling drugs or whatever. I fit whatever the profile he has in mind for a criminal, period. And that was it. And so he came up automatically assuming I was this criminal figure and not knowing good and well what it is I actually did. And what I actually did for a living really has no bearing on the type of person he is, but he came up with a preconceived notion. And so, yeah, you have to have that. You have to have that talk. I tell my girls this all the time as well, even for them. But had I been like F you to the cop and doing all this, now I have a right, because I'm not gonna say raising hell, but I was asking questions. Why are you asking me to sit on this curb? Why am I not able to go across the street? You know, you could just tell me I'm in a private property, which I don't believe, but you can just tell me the private property, go back to the house. And I would have did so. Why are you asking for my ID? Why am I sitting on the curb? Why are there 4 or 5 other police officers' cars coming over? You know what I mean? I can ask those questions. But, you know, I did it in a respectful way. But, you know, the main thing about it, they wanted to get me in that cop car, arrest me, and then figure out who I was, see if I had any warrants or anything. Once they didn't find that out, they knew they made a mistake, but it was too damn late at that point.
I feel like a bunch of this is, like, we've seen a couple examples too on social media where people being profiled, but there are some that know their rights and know the wordplay to get out of such situations, because cops try to trick you with some wordplay, like you said, agitate you, bait you into things. And then once they find like an educated person that they know they can't mess with, or someone who knows the wordplay, so to speak, they sort of back off. Like I saw a video yesterday of some guy in front of his house, I think putting Black Lives Matter, I think that's what it was. And cops were trying to say, what are you doing? You're holding a camera or something like that. And he was like, it's not against the law. They were like, it's against policy. And he's like, well, it's not against the law. And so it's just small wordplay like that where they try to get people. Yeah. And it's like, is your point to protect, or is it to like just find people, like poke at people and try to get something out of it? You know what I mean?
It's all scare tactics, right? They're all just trying to scare the shit out of you so you don't say anything and you just kind of comply, right?
Yeah. And most people, look, you know, most people are not educated on the law, and
that's the problem.
Not educated on their rights and what they have. And I'm not saying I'm the most educated person, but I know good and well I shouldn't be getting arrested for talking on the phone right in front of my house.
Yeah, that was bullshit. I mean, come on. Couldn't they see on your license that your address is right across the street? Or had you not changed it? You said you just moved.
Yeah, it wasn't changed at that point because I had just moved over there. But one knock on the door.
Is your husband? Yes.
See my wife is home. Okay, it wasn't hard. If he really wanted to know, but that wasn't the point. Was he thought he had somebody, and you know how certain situations are. They pull you over for something small, minor, right? Just to get your ID to see if you're somebody with warrants or something like that. It was one of those situations.
I want to move on to some.
Hold on, I got a question. How many stories did you miss out on from that time till 3:00 when you got?
No, I didn't. I didn't miss out on any stories because that incident happened around 10 something, and I got out like around 3 that morning. So nothing happened. Nothing happened that night.
Okay.
Okay. More to some of your sports writing career. I want to ask you, what was the biggest, sort of most challenging moment for you in sports writing? Whether it's news breaking, sports writing, what was the most challenging moment for you?
Well, one of the most challenging moments off the top of my head was writing off of the end of a game deadline. So when I was in Portland covering the Blazers, I didn't have too many end of the game deadlines. The end of the game deadlines are basically when the game is over, you got 600, 700 word story ready. Mm-hmm. And that was tough. And that was tough for me to get used to. I will say the person who helped me with that, prepared me for that, was Mark Spears. He was like, okay, now you're going from strictly website writing to now the Cleveland Plain Dealer, which is, website and newspaper. Right. So you got to adjust. And I remember the summer league going to Cleveland. Spears put me on an assignment where I would just watch, and I didn't really want to do it because I didn't feel like watching. I was there to cover the Blazers, but he was like, watch some obscure summer league game and write a story. And so I did that like 3 times. I wrote a story and had that story ready and done by the end of the game. And so that helped me. But once it got to Cleveland, I had to learn different, style of writing for the paper. And so that was tough. That was challenging because things change. Like first of all, I could care less who wins the game. I don't root for anybody. I have no rooting interest whatsoever. But when you're writing the end of a game story type deadline, you kind of start rooting for whoever's in the lead at that time. You know what I mean? Like it may be the third quarter. Yeah. Like if they got a significant lead, let's keep that lead so I ain't got to mess my story up. Now I ain't got to change things because that's the worst. It's like one team can have the game under control for 44 of the 48 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. And so you got 4 minutes left. The story is good. You got everything. You got little anecdotes in there and all that stuff. And then like that, the game just changed. And it's like, what just happened? And so you got like a few minutes to alter the majority of your story. I used to hate that.
Or overtime.
Oh,
I hate overtime.
But look, but even with overtime, it gives me enough time. I got enough time
to adjust it.
Yeah, enough 5 minutes to adjust. But when it's like a close game, those close games is like, dang, I can't. It's tough, man. I hated that.
Yeah, I hate recaps.
I'll give you one. Most recently, I think you were there too, Chris, but you weren't doing the stories at the time. Game 2, Clippers-Warriors. By halftime, I had a good chunk of my story written. Warriors go up 33. I'm like, all right, we're done here. Clippers going down 0-2. Let's just finish this out. Fourth quarter, they're down 10. I'm like, all right, but it's the Warriors. KD, Steph, they're going to close it out.
Yeah.
I don't remember where that story went, but it wasn't what I had. It changed dramatically within minutes.
Those are the worst, man. Those are the worst. You got to be prepared. You just hate. Like that's the only time I have a rooting interest. Like I'm rooting for this story
just to get the
game
stay
the same. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, which team did you have a team you rooted for growing up at all?
Yeah, the Warriors actually. But I wouldn't even say the Warriors. I was a big Latrell Sprewell fan, and so when the Bulls, everybody liked Mike the Bulls. So I was no different. But when Mike went to retirement, the first time when he played baseball, I live in Fresno, California. born and raised, and we would get all the Warrior games. And the Warriors were horrible back then. But Sprewell was the closest to me that I seen in Jordan. He had the ball head. He was a shooting guard, 6'5", 6'6", and I watched all the games because the games came on every single day. Mm-hmm. And so I was a big Latrell Sprewell fan, more Sprewell fan than the Warriors because I ended up following Sprewell when he went to the Knicks, when he went to Minnesota. And I think that was it. Yeah, Warriors, Knicks, and Minnesota. And so that's who I rooted for growing up.
You know what my favorite Sprewell highlight is? Can you guess?
Not the choking highlight.
No.
That's more of a low light, but go ahead.
The Magic Johnson ball fake.
Oh, that's a low light. That's a low light.
But it was legendary, you got to admit.
That was magic. That's when he returned.
When he was like a linebacker.
Yeah, he was a little bigger, but he had that move. He faked Sprewell went that way.
Straight up.
Went finished with the layup.
Sprewell bit. He bit so hard.
Man. Yeah,
he had some highlight dunks though, man. Those two-handers over
he was
head.
a tomahawk. He was the first guy to come, and to me. So Sprewell has small hands, and I have small hands. I never So when I was dunking in high school and college, I'm a two-hand dunker. Because I couldn't grip the ball. I can't grip the ball. So in order for me to dunk with one hand, I have to elevate over the rim and come down.
Yeah.
And flush it. You know what I mean? And that's what Sprewell did. Whenever he would rarely dunk with one hand. But when
that's funny. I never thought about that before now, but
yeah. Spree can't palm the ball. Same with me. I can't palm the ball. I was always a two-hand dunker. So most people when you're coming up when you're 14 and 15, you're just starting to dunk for the first time. Most people obviously they dunk with the one hand first. I never could do that. I had to make sure my hops got to a point where I was dunking with two.
Can you remember the first time you dunked somewhere?
Yep, Boys and Girls Club, the summer of 95. So it was summer of 96. Summer of 96, freshman year going to my sophomore year. That summer, my first dunk. It was a two-hand dunk, Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, man, so I was going to say, I'm surprised you got – because a lot of kids try to go for the one-hander right away. But you made sure you had enough bounce to get two-hand.
I couldn't take the ball up with me. I couldn't. Like, most people know how to, even balance the ball, as they're about to take their stride and then do that. I couldn't control, and still to this day, I can't control that ball. So I've always, when I do dunk with one hand, I'll go up with two, and then I'll come down like that. You know what I mean? But I was always two-hand dunker.
I could grab rim. And the only way I could get close is by putting it on my fingertips, right here, to try and just get it over.
Yeah.
But it always went flying that way.
You never got it over once?
No, man. I needed another inch or two.
All right, man. Keep trying, man. Don't give up.
No, I think those days are gone. Those days are gone.
I think the most I got was just grabbing rim. When you have enough bounce, but not enough to get it in, so you're throwing the ball at the back of the rim and it just bounces off.
Yeah,
that's what it was for me. That's what I could never get up high enough.
No, I remember those days, man. When you're younger, 8th grade, to even do that, to what you're talking about, even just when you're doing that, you're not high enough to get over, but it looks like you almost done.
Yeah.
You got so much praise.
I'm there.
Yeah, 8th grade, 9th, maybe even 9th grade. Damn, he almost dunked that. You know what I mean? But then once you start getting older, it's all right, come on, put the ball in now. Come on.
Yeah, I'd be more afraid of landing now than I would be going up. I'd be man, my knees are just going to buckle and explode by the time I get down.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you.
Chris, what's your most favorite moment covering sports, covering the NBA?
Favorite moment covering sports. You know what? Just to be able to add another level of diversity into the profession. Coming up, I didn't see. There's just even still there's not a lot of people that look like me covering the NBA. There's some. We can name some, but if you look at the vast majority of sports writers, they don't look like myself, and I just wanted to add a layer. I just felt like who can tell our stories better than us. The flight of So when I was in Portland, when I first covered the league, my first time walking in the locker room, I would look at the player media interactions. And I would see, like, when they open the locker room up, I would see how the players will exit to the training room. I know you know how that goes with the Clippers and the Lakers. And I saw that coming in. That was like the first thing I saw. Like, damn, they don't want to be bothered. And I was like, why is that? And I just kept watching, observing, and I would see that when certain media members walk in the locker room, they walk in the locker room and just go straight to a player and put a mic in their face. And it's like, okay. It's like, these guys are human beings, man. You know what I mean? They're going through real life human problems and issues that we go through. They're treat them like human beings. You know what I mean? So I started, going in there, and I would just have a conversation off the record. I ain't putting no mic. Hey, how's the family doing? How's the kids? What's going on? You know what I mean? Just talk, build a relationship. Because first of all, if you don't have a relationship with
Chris, hold on. I need a notepad.
Oh man, come on, man. Come on, man. Right. This ain't
keep going.
This ain't gospel, man. This ain't Bible now.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though. And Tomer does too. Like, these guys, they kind of have a wall up, right?
Yeah. They have a wall up for sure.
They get in the scrums, and all the personalities are different. And then you got the guys who just don't give a shit, and they're and then they want to get out, right? They don't
get out. And I didn't want my interactions to be like that. Of course you can't stop all interactions from being like that, but I just, when having casual conversations with them, talking with them, getting to know them, that's it. And so when it got to the point where I did need something from them on record, not only will they give me something, but they'll give me some gold, like give me some gold quotes that are just going to blow up. And that happens because they have a relationship with you. And they know that I'm not just all about coming to them trying to get something. You know what I mean? Like, it's deeper than that. And so, that's what, to answer your question, that's what I've always strived to do. And that's the way I always done my job.
I noticed that this year with the Lakers locker room. It's been crazy, right? You've seen how crazy that thing is right now.
Yeah.
I was walking in, and Danny Green was walking by me or something, and walking by all these people. You come in, and you guys are like dapping up, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, Danny Green acted like none of us were there. You come in, and you guys are like, look like you're close friends.
Yeah, it's different. Like, and it's not even a race thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, but I meant it was like you built that relationship.
No, that's the point. No, what I'm saying that because, I know there's a lot of people in Oregon when I first got there, because I was the only person of color in the media over there at the time.
Really?
So I know it was probably some that was like, oh, he's just doing that because he's black and, he's not doing his job. He's buddy with the players. And like, that's for anybody of any race. When you get to know somebody, like, why wouldn't Danny, if he knows you, y'all have conversation, why wouldn't Danny come and stop and say what's up to you? It has nothing to do with race or anything. It's just that you guys have a relationship. You know what I mean? He know he can trust you to a certain extent. Why wouldn't he stop? And that's the point. I think people do a bad job of trying to establish relationships. Another thing, too, some people just don't know how to establish relationships. Some people don't know how to, especially in this social media era, like, people don't know how to have face-to-face interactions, hold a conversation.
Well, so I don't blame players for not trusting a lot of us, right? Because sometimes stories just fly right back in their face, and it turns out to be kind of a stain on their resume, right? For whatever we said or twisted or it was just misconstrued. You know what I mean? It happens every day. So I don't blame them for having these walls up and stuff. But
it happens every day. But sometimes these players say some things that they don't think is going to garner that type of outrage, and it does. So they have to take some onus on themselves. It's not all reporters.
No, that's true. But I do think that makes the relationship building process difficult, right?
No, I get you.
There's only been a few players that I've been cool with where I've been like, wow, that's a genuine guy. Like Nick Young. I loved Nick Young.
Gold.
Yeah, he was awesome. It was like, it was always a pleasure. But
I think my first year covering the league was, 16, 17, I want to say, or 15, 16. I don't know what year it was, but the Clippers played the Jazz. And I didn't know much of anything. People just go up with the mic and I'm like, all right, just go up with the mic and let's get the interview done.
Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't feel right though. I'm not here to just do this. Like I want to, learn from them, talk to them, be not necessarily buddy, but the last thing I figured they want to talk about is basketball because they talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So ask about, like you said, family, cars, what they like to eat, just random stuff like that. And the next season, it really helped me, like just to get more players' knowledge, like get insight on the team later on. It's just, and it's less robotic in that, all right, interview done, see you tomorrow. Interview done, see you tomorrow. It's more human. I always thought Kawhi Leonard was sort of like, they call him the Terminator, robot, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and there's an intimidation factor in talking to him. I think for people who aren't as big, I know Chris, you've had a couple, so you guys are probably cool, but I walked up to Kawhi a couple times this year, and I was like, hey, did you know Charles Barkley called you the Terminator? We joked about being called a robot and not being on social media, and we talked about food, and I showed him there was a play where he passed to Paul George, and Paul George took like 5 steps and dunked, and I showed him that play, and he laughed, and I was like, oh, so this guy's like, he's human. It's sort of just you got to break through that wall, because I think, yeah, like Ryan said, every player has that wall up, and no one wants to talk basketball the whole time. You got to be different. So, yeah, I think that's what I learned in my first couple of years. So, definitely echo that. Speaking of Kawhi, though, I think you were the one to break that news in the offseason. Take us through that night, because there was a major earthquake that night. Zion Williamson's debut was going down in Summer League. That was the most packed I've ever seen Summer League.
Yeah.
And then I want to say 10:53 Pacific, boom, you tweet out Kawhi's going to the Clippers.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know it was going to be that day. I actually thought it was going to happen the next day. Yeah, I mean, who breaks news? I mean, a news like that at 10:50, that's that's 1 o'clock, some on the East Coast. And so, I was there. I was sitting front and center for Zion Williamson's game. He looked great. Ripped the ball from what's that? The Knicks,
Kevin Knox, I think. Yeah.
Man, he put on the show. Didn't he sit out the second half?
I think he did. Yeah.
Hurt. Yeah. So my night was done. Like, my night was over. I believe that was the last game of the night. My night was over. So I go to the hotel, shower up. I was going to meet some colleagues for a late dinner. And then I think I got the shot in my room. And so I get a text from a very reliable source saying Kawhi to the Clippers. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. So this source I've worked with before.
Yeah.
So I trust him. I know he's good. But still, I had to, like, if this source gave me a story before in the past, I'm not even asking a follow-up. I'm like, thank you. I'm going to report. But for this particular story, and the time it was, I'm like, hold on. Kawhi's going to the Clippers. And remember, like, for reporting purposes, like, this little time and going back to follow up, like, this is time. Like, you don't know, like, every second counts. You know what I'm saying? So, but I can't get this wrong. You know what I'm saying? I can't get this wrong. So I'm like, hold on. You mean Kawhi is signing with the Clippers? Like, that's done deal. Correct. So that's all I needed. And the rest was history. I told my boss real quick, hey, editor, I'm about to tweet this real quick, but let's get this story going. And that's the way it went. And, that earthquake had just happened. So I don't think that Zion game was the last game that night, because I went to the next gym. What's the next gym? That's the small Pavilion.
Yeah.
So I go over there. I was actually in there when everything was shaking. So I started like, dang. So that's why I left. I left early because it was shaking. I was like, man, I'm not gonna be around here with all these things falling on my head. Like, I'm getting out of here. So that's what happened. And then I was in my hotel room, and that's when it happened. So obviously I had to change my dinner plans. Couldn't go out to dinner that night. I had to break that story and write. But That was a big one because nobody seen that because mostly, that was
Man,
week.
there's so much misinformation.
It was, and that was what I was about to hit on. Is like, I've covered, I broke some big stories, some stories that people really didn't know where that player was going, but that one in particular, he was going to the Lakers. He canceled out the Lakers. He was going back to Toronto. He was like, it was so much misinformation that I was just relieved. I was relieved just to have it over with. So that was a crazy night for sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it must have been like because selfishly, like, the Clippers weren't a contender before Kawhi. And selfishly for my career, I was like, all right, if Kawhi comes here, this will be big. For Ryan, Lakers, Clippers, the battle for LA, it'll be huge. So selfishly, I wanted him here. But I'm like, there's so much out there, with fake insiders on Twitter. And
because remember, we thought for at least, I think, about a week that he was coming to the Lakers for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's multiple people saying
done
it.
Deal, yeah.
It was just a matter of time, right?
Lakers thought
and
that
then
too.
This happened. I bet they were pissed.
So safe to say that before it came out, obviously you heard all the different opinions and news, but you thought he was going to the Lakers?
No, I thought it would either be going back to Toronto or the Clippers. I didn't, knowing Kawhi the way I did, I didn't.
You didn't buy him playing with LeBron and
I couldn't see him joining LeBron. No, I couldn't. I couldn't.
Why?
And I think you really have to consider Lakers. Like you really, just the history and LeBron being there, knowing that you're going to compete for a championship, during the remaining years of his contract with the Lakers. So that has to be enticing. And I would probably say I thought, I never said this at the time, but I probably thought he was going back to Toronto at that time. You know what I mean? Because even though the Clippers were doing everything over the last 5 or so years to clean up the bad image left by the previous owner and just cleaning things up and getting themselves set to get a new arena, just building, getting the right pieces. It's like, but we still never seen somebody, a big free agent, diss the Lakers and go to the Clippers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and so that was why that was really hard for me to really fathom because it's never happened.
Right.
And so I think that's why I thought he'd probably go back to Toronto.
But then even crazier, Paul George right after it.
Right after. Yeah, it was right after. I broke that. And, I think Woj got Paul George maybe 5 minutes later or something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
That's crazy. Crazy night.
That was
I remember Tomer was on cloud 9, like, finally, Clippers are relevant.
So Chris, you probably don't know this, but I grew up a Clippers fan.
Okay.
I've sort of lost some of that fandom as you watch basketball because you play fantasy sports, you watch basketball, you get to know these guys. You're just a fan of the sport in general, I think. And so, but like I said, for selfish reasons, for my own career, I was like, Kawhi comes here, that'd be great. It'd be great to cover the Clippers. And so, yeah, once it did, I was like, "Ooh, boy, it's gonna be a battle for LA." We started our podcast right after that, and it's been great. It's been crazy.
Perfect timing, man.
Is that your most favorite piece that you've broken? Because I recall one of my personal favorites of yours was, I want to say it was Gordon Hayward, whatever the Hulk Hogan tweet was, whatever that was. I think it was Gordon Hayward.
No, I think that one probably is. Yeah, I think that Gordon Hayward one was the most gratifying.
Did you report that, and then it was Players Tribune right after?
Let's let Chris tell the story on this one, because I know Chris has a good story to tell on this one.
I do? How you know that, man?
I may have heard from sources, yeah.
Yeah.
You know how the sources be.
I was with ESPN at the time, and let me see. And so I was hearing rumblings. So it was July 4th. So we pretty much, all the insiders pretty much knew that he was going to make his decision on that day. And so that morning I was hearing like, man, Boston is like, I was reporting days leading up, Boston feels good about their chances. You can Google that and see it. I was on SportsCenter saying that. I was just hearing that morning. I'm like, man, people are saying he's Boston bound. But I'm like, all right, but these are not people directly connected to him. And so I'm like, all right, I'll just keep working it. And then I got a text. So I got a text that, man, it was like 1:00, something like that, afternoon. Got a text that he's indeed going there. And then, there are sources that you have that these are like gold sources.
Automatic.
You know what I mean? Like these are gold. Then there's sources that you get that you have to do some more digging. They give you a lead. This is one of those sources. Boom. And so I go with it. Gordon Hayward, Boston, right? So to me, it's over. It's done. You know what I'm saying? So moving on. Like I'm moving on to the next story I'm trying to break. Next free agent I'm trying to get. Then Mark Boston, who I love his agent. He comes out. I think he goes through Woj and said that it's not a done deal. No, it's not. Gordon hasn't made a decision yet. He hasn't made a decision yet. And so once that happened, once that got out, so for the next 4 or 5 hours, however long it was, I'm getting killed. I'm getting ripped. Oh, you ain't, you liar, fake news, blah, blah, blah. Then, even the Jazz, like all the, especially the Jazz, Celtics, and who in the Miami Heat, because those were the 3 teams that were his finalists. They were all, their fans was killing me. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. I knew that Gordon wanted to break it through the Players Tribune. And so I'm just like, there's no point in me. Like, I'm not this dude, like, getting on Twitter and going back and all that stuff. That's not me. So I left it. I left it up. Left my story up, wrote my story, left it. That's it. And so I just waited. And I remember I'm on the phone with this Jazz official. So it's like 5 hours go by and the Jazz don't know what's going on. Miami, like nobody knows what's going on. Like everybody's just like, I can't believe this is happening. So I'm on the phone with a Jazz official. And so we're talking, and, he's basically asking me, Chris, are you sure? I'm like, man, I reported what I reported. Sticking to it. That's it. I'm not changing it. That's it. And so we're talking, and then I made sure I put the Players Tribune on my notifications. So whenever it drops something, I can just see it. So I'm on the phone with this Jazz official, and like he's like kind of like stressing, like still in disbelief and still don't know what to believe. And so I get that notification while I'm on the phone with this official. And it was Gordon Hayward's story, why I chose the Celtics or something like that. And I was just like, yeah, I told you. Yeah. I told you. I'm like on the phone with the dude, right? I say, told you, going to Boston. And so the dude was like, Chris, are you serious? You got to do it like that. I'm like, oh, my bad. I'm like, no, my bad. No disrespect. My bad. I'm sorry. My bad. But he just put it out. My bad. So it was, he was kind of mad how it was just, I was just relishing the moment, and that's when I got my my Gordon Hayward. My Hulk Hogan meme, and put that out, man. You know what I mean?
Let everyone know. Chris, you got anything you want to plug? Anything at all?
Nah, not really, y'all.
Plug
just to keep continue to check out my pod, my video pod, posted up with Chris Haynes. I got DeJounte Murray of the San Antonio Spurs coming up. And so, that's about it, man. Just tune in to your boy.
Where can people find you? Shoot us everywhere.
They can find me on Twitter at Chris B. Haynes. They can find me on Facebook page, Chris B. Haynes. And I believe my Instagram is at Chris B. Haynes NBA. So just check me out, man. I appreciate y'all for having me on for sure, though.
Of course. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate taking the time, the stories. Really, really great episode. I really appreciate that. Yeah. As always, guys, subscribe to the podcast wherever you guys get your podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google Play, iHeart, we're all there. Shoot us a 5-star review. We got more guests for you guys. Obviously, we got Chris Haynes this week. Working on a player next week, so we'll see how that works. But leave us a 5-star review. Any comments or questions you guys got for us, leave them for us on Instagram, Twitter, or the review section as well. You can follow Ryan at Ryan Ward LA on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok now, I want to say.
Yeah, I folded.
TikTok. Oh.
Chris, you getting a TikTok game or no?
Nah, man.
Watch, just a matter of time, Chris. Just a matter of time.
You don't break news and like filters and everything.
I'll pass.
As always, you can follow me at Tomer Azarly. That's TOMERAZARLY on Twitter and Instagram. Getting on the TikTok game slowly. Follow Clutch Points, Blue Wire as well. And yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this week, and we will catch you guys next time. Peace. Thanks again, Chris.
All right. Y'all take care, boys.
Thanks, man.
For sure.